This is CPM Precalculus Chapter 1, number 102. So add the rules from the Math Notes box to your toolkit. So this Math Notes box says basically for fractional exponents, x to the power of 1 over n, see that's the fraction, is equal to the nth root of x. Similarly, x to the power of m over n, see how n is in the denominator? Well, this is the nth root of this is the same as the nth root of x to the power of m. Okay, so add these notes to your notes. Okay, make sure you have these things ready to use. And then it tells you to, it does not matter how you break up the fractional exponent. Okay, to evaluate fractional exponents without a calculator, make the numbers as small as possible or as small as soon as you can by taking the root first and then raising to the power. So that's saying do the root part first. So this is the root part, looking at the denominator, right? Look at the root part first and then raise it to the power later, right? This is the power later. Okay, so let's look at example A. It says evaluate 64 to the 2/3 power. Well, we can separate this 64 to the 1/3 and then that to the power of 2, right? Because we know that 2/3 is equal to 1/3 times 2. And then we know that 64 to the 1/3 power using this rule right here is basically the nth root, so that's the third root of 64. So that's equal to the third root of 64, and then we want to square that. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, basically, what number do we multiply by itself 3 times to get 64? Well, we know the square root of 64 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. So if we multiply 8 again, we're going to get a number way bigger than 64. So let's get smaller. Let's try starting at 2. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8, so that's too small. How about 3? 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 again is 27, too small. 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. So there we go. We know that the cube root, or the third root of 64 is 4. Okay, and then we want to square that, and 4 squared is just 16. So this is part A. And now I want to bring in, and let's do the rest of these examples. Okay, so example B. 125 to the 4/3 power is equal to 125 to the 1/3 power times 4, because we know that 4/3 is equal to 1/3 times 4. Okay, 4 over 1, but then we know that 4 over 1 can just be written as 4. So that's equal to, using this rule here, it's over 3, so it's going to be the third root. So it's the third root of 125 on the inside, and we still have the 4th power on the outside. Well, what number do you multiply by itself 3 times to get 125? Well, we know that 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. And what about 5 times 5 times 5? Well, 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 again is 125. So there we go. It's going to be 25 on the inside to the 4th power. And 25 to the 4th power is going to be some really, really big number. Let me write it down. Oops, I did this wrong. We just said the cube root, the third root of 125 is 5, right? And we want to get 5 to the 4th power, not 25. So that's going to be 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. And we know that's the same as 5 times 5 is 25 times 5 times 5. Actually, we know 3 times is 125 times 5, right? 25 times 5 is 125. We multiply that out, we get 625. Okay? So this is our answer for part B. Okay, 81. 81 to the 3/4 power, we know we can break that up to, it says to, remember it says in our hints, it says take the root first and then raise it to the power. That means we want to break up and we want the root first, which is going to be 81 to the 1/4 power, and then we want to cube that after, because that's equal to the 4th root of 81, and then we want to cube that. Well, what times itself 4 times is equal to 81? Again, we've been doing what multiplied by itself 3 times is equal to the number. Well, 4 times, let's start again with 2. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So no. What about 3 times 3 times 3 times 3? Okay. We know 3 times 3 is 9, right? 3 times 3 over here is 9, so this is 9 times 9, that's 81. So yes, the 4th root of 81 is 3. Oops. Then we cube that. Well, 3 times 3 is 9, so that's equal to 3 times 3 times 3. We know that's 9 times 3. 9 times 3 we know is 27. Okay, that's our answer in part C. And then finally in part D, we have a fraction to the power of a negative fraction. So here's where you have to remember that a negative fraction, right, just for memory's sake, if we have a to the negative m power, that's the same as, remember, we take the reciprocal 1 over a to the positive m power. Okay, so first we want to take the reciprocal of 27 over 8, and that's 8 over 27. And then we have the positive power of 2/3. Okay, now we can distribute this exponent to every term, the numerator and the denominator. You have 8 to the power of 2/3 divided by 27 to the power of 2/3. Okay, and here we're going to break up our fractional exponent just like we were. We know that that is the same as 8 to the 1/3 power squared over 27 to the 1/3 power squared. And then we want to, that's equal to the 3rd root of 8 squared divided by the 3rd root of 27 squared. Okay, and what number times itself 3 times equals 8? Well, we know 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, so that is going to be 2, and that's squared. And what number times itself 3 times equals to 27? Well, we saw here 3 times 3 times 3 is equal to 27, so that's 3 squared. 2 squared we know is 4, 3 squared we know is 9, and this is simplified already. We can't reduce that anymore, and that is our answer for part D. So this ends CPM Precalculus Chapter 1, number 102.